Hello and welcome to today's webinar with M4A Health. My name is David Benning, session producer today. Thanks everyone for joining us. The topic, as you see on the screen, is mangosteen for animals, a natural choice for all animals. Our presenter today is John Young, founder and president of M4A, and we'll bring him on in just a moment. But first, a little background. M4A is a company focused on providing a natural alternative to antibiotics for all species of animals. Today's webinar is focused upon dairy animal health, but we expect you will find much of the information applicable on other species, including companion animals, equine, and poultry. John Young has spent his entire career involved with livestock, being a very compassionate caretaker focused on the well-being of animals and teaching others caretaking skills and best management practices, primarily in dairy cattle. John has worked as a herdsman, herd manager, and owner of large dairy herds, the largest of which is a 6,100 head dairy cow herd with another 6,000 head of dairy replacement heifers back in the mid-1980s. John has taught college-level herd management courses at the University of Minnesota and has served on many agricultural boards, including the Michigan DHIA State Board, serving as vice president, Governor Milliken's Agricultural Labor Commission, and as Dane County Farm Bureau Board vice president. And he is also passionate about his wife of 47 years, 7 children, 24 grandchildren, and a year-old great-granddaughter. Let's now bring on John Young, founder and president of M4A. John, it's all yours.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning. I'm very grateful for you investing some time into your future, because I think we've got a tool here that could be very advantageous as you explore ways to be more economical and more effective in dealing with animals. So let's just jump right on into the presentation here this morning. A quick overview of what we'll be covering in this presentation. There's a rapid changing environment in terms of consumer expectations for their food. Producers of meat and milk have some concerns as well to respond to the consumers, as well as being conscientious and being consistent with the demands of the consumers. And to answer and address that problem, we have a new category, natural product, to deal with this issue. We'll talk a little bit about the mangosteen. What is it and where does it come from? We'll share with you our launch video, about a 3-minute video that we used nearly a year ago to launch our business at the Professional Dairy Producers of Wisconsin. We'll talk a little bit about the extensive research behind this product. We'll go show you why we have so much confidence in this product, largely because of the trials that we used on farms. We'll talk a little bit about our brand and our focus with our company, and we'll move on into the products, where you can get them, talk a little bit about how we're using social media and ultimately over time using Amazon, and then we'll help you hopefully get enough information that you can make a decision upon using M4A. I'm sure most of you have seen an article similar to this. It seems as though a day does not go by that I don't see something about antibiotic use, the consumer concerned about antibiotics, or government's intervention in trying to reduce the antibiotic use. This statement up here, highlighted up above here, as you can see here, antibiotic resistance is one of the greatest health threats of our time. Many institutional organizations are making that statement and recognizing that there is a problem. Unfortunately, consumers are blaming this segment right here, the animals, and us as producers for that issue. And unfortunately, that's not totally true, but sometimes perception is reality, and that's what we've got to deal with today. Just recently, a couple of weeks ago, Wall Street Journal, in their business section here, you can see right here, had this article, meat companies go antibiotic free as more consumers demand it. And then they pointed out that food producers are responding are responding to consumers' concerns about antibiotic resistance. So all of those of you that are on this webinar, whether you be dairy producers, veterinarians, or nutritionists, I'm sure all of you recognize this, that this is a very, very serious problem. It's a problem that has to be addressed. And we feel we have a solution to that problem. It's not a common kind of solution. It's not a solution like everything else that's coming on. It is, in fact, a new category product. And if you read this, some people have responded, oh, it sounds like snake oil. You can't possibly be all of those things. But let's just go through this just real quickly. It is an antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, and that in itself is pretty significant. I'm not aware of any other product on the market that has those attributes or properties. But this new category product, and the reason we're calling it a new product, it also enhances rather than crippling the immune system. Most anti-inflammatories will cripple the immune system, set it back on its tail, whereas ours is simultaneously with dealing with the inflammation, is enhancing the immune system and enhancing the digestive systems. So it has all of these properties. And for those of you that that your dandruff got riled, your hair went up, saying that I can't make these claims, I'll first acknowledge that we are a food supplement in a feed ingredient world. So I can't claim that this is an antibacterial, antiviral. I can't claim that it enhances the immune system. All I can say is that it has these properties. So we are legally correct in terms of this statement. But the amazing thing, this is all in a natural product. And then the powerhouse statement on this whole thing, holy wow, holy cow, holy shit, if you'll excuse my language, there's no meat or milk withholding. So let's just talk a little bit about this amazing fruit. You know, this fruit's been around for thousands of years. If you notice down here, for thousands of years, and it was used by natural tribal doctors for centuries. It is the Garcinia mangostana lin. It comes from Southeast Asia, and it has xanthones in it. Those are the powerhouse nutrients. There are about 200 xanthones in all of nature. This pericarp of the mangosteen fruit, about the size of a tangerine, has 75 of those xanthones. And we'll get into the research in a little bit, but has really brought this product, this mangosteen, to people's attention is the fact that a year and a half, 2 years ago, the mangosteen was developed into an anti-cancer drug. Even though 10 years ago it was in laboratories shown that it was more effective than 5 of the 6 chemo drugs. You probably know why you didn't hear about that. There's a whole lot of money in big pharma. And for those of you that are from the big pharma companies that are watching in as veterinarians or liaison people to farmers, I apologize if I offend you with that statement. But I think if you do some reflecting, you recognize that there is a lot of intellectual as well as monetary efforts put into suppressing some natural things that could exist. So look at this, over 1,000 studies on this mangosteen. So it's not just a fluke. It's not something that's all about testimonies. It's very real. So let's go into that and let's validate that product here. Bear with me here. Before we get into that, these are really 4 key areas that we focus on. Number 1, as I mentioned, there is no immune suppression to this powerful natural alternative to antibiotics. Over the years, I used a tremendous amount of dexamethasone, always to the dismay of the veterinarians, because they said, John, I agree with you that you can solve some problems and get the cow beyond a particular problem or get the calf beyond a particular problem, but you're setting yourself up so many other problems. You're setting the animal up because of immune suppression that the animal will not be able to deal with the issues that are confronted with it. But this amazing product you can use at any level. There is no negative level, 10x, 100x of this anti-inflammatory that will suppress the immune system. So, point we made earlier here is the big problem that exists for you as dairy producers, veterinarians, and nutritionists for your clients, and those of rest of you that are a part of the infrastructure, is that not only are consumers demanding, but government is taking a big role in terms of putting pressure on you as producers to reduce the antibiotics in the meat and milk and create greater food safety, and probably as much as anything is confidence in the consumer that they do have a safe product. When it comes to where can the product be used, it's kind of amazing. As we work with dairy farmers, I have yet to run into something that a dairy farmer has not tried this product on. From scours and pneumonia in calves to metabolic disorders in cows, which, as I mentioned earlier on, was our first rollout. Now we've moved on into udder edema issues, somatic cell count issues, mastitis issues, respiratory problems in cows, yonis, Crohn's, and in humans, Crohn's, associated and quite similar to yonis, have been successful in addressing all those issues. And as we mentioned here, where we hang our hat in terms of good returns, and even during a down dairy economy, a product that can give you phenomenal returns for your investment because there's no meat or milk withholding. So on to the research here. So we broke this up into a number of categories. We went out and searched PubMed.gov or PubMed.com. I'm sure many of you, especially veterinarians, use this regularly. So here's the anti-inflammatory xanthones. Notice that there's over 300 papers that address this issue, if you will, here, of it being a safe and effective natural anti-inflammatory. And you'll notice in this here, even in the area of mastitis, there is some research that exists. So yes, most of the research is focused upon human performance and human impact, but as you know, a lot of the research is really done on animals and then goes over to humans, and then we bring it full circle back to animals with this product. So I encourage you to go out and explore PubMed.com or .gov on your own. Both work in terms of looking at it. Use some keywords. Number one, use xanthones. Those are the powerhouse nutrients in there. Use the word mangosteen or mangostana, and then use side effects for anti-inflammatories. I think you'll be amazed at what exists out there in terms of research. So the second key point here is the immune system enhancement. Notice that there's almost 300 papers on here, and because this product has gotten the attention of the world, I'm not sure there's any university in the United States that's not currently doing some research on this amazing product. You notice here there's lots of 2017s here. I haven't updated this in the last 11 months. I would expect if I went out there and did a review again of the research, because there's 3 to 4 new papers a month coming on into PubMed on the mangosteen, that we would find that there would be a lot of 2018 additions to the research in the area of immune system enhancement. As most of you know, there's a huge number of products coming onto the market currently by different companies attempting to approach. But just keep in mind, as you explore those products and evaluate those products, include our M4A product in the mix, because we're so much more than just an immune enhancement product. We're dealing with the bacteriology, the bacteria issues as well as the viral issues, and we're addressing the inflammation. And many of you probably can recall learning early on in your career in the dairy industry, if we can't deal with the inflammation in the udder during mastitis, we cannot successfully treat. If we can't deal with the inflammation in the foot and in the ankle, we can't successfully deal with that. So again, back to the point of the research, explore the research on your own if this doesn't in itself validate this. All of this information is on our website as well if you want to look at it in more detail and study it in greater detail. 10 years ago, it was determined that mangosteen, the xanthones in the mangosteen were effective against MRSA. And that became a revelation and an exposure that activated a huge amount of excitement with this product in terms of it helping to address the drug resistancy that exists not only in animals but in humans. We believe that we will leave a legacy with M4A in terms of impacting drug resistance in humans via the animal attention that we give this product. And out there's even some research in terms of the impact of mangosteen on milk production. This was a trial done in Southeast Asia. You can go and validate it on PubMed if you'd like. It was a small trial, not a lot of animals, but the fact is that it does exist and it does have a tremendous impact upon milk production. These trials were done basically with a program very similar to what's done in Florida, where they feed citrus pulp. Well, here they fed the pulp of the mangosteen to animals, very similar to how they feed citrus pulp in Florida to dairy animals, and they ended up with over a 10% milk production increase on both a 16 and a 19% diet level. So the protein level didn't seem to have much impact, very similar performance at both 16 and 19%. And you'll notice down here at the bottom that it also some research done on ketosis, and ketosis is one of our major industry problems. Was recently visiting with a farm of about 1,700 cows, and I know their nutritionist well, and it was interesting to hear that producer saying that the nutritionist, who I admire tremendously, used him at a very high-end level on my own 2,000 cow dairy, had brought in 3 different experts to attempt to deal with the ketosis problem on that farm, and had at that point, which was several months ago, not yet resolved the ketosis problem. Thanks for being patient with me. I get very excited about this in terms of the credentials of this product via the research. So, as I go on here, please be aware that there is a 4-page booklet available on the website that will address some of the upcoming field trials that we do have in this webinar. And I encourage you to print that off and share that with, if you will, the gatekeepers of your farm that are involved in making a decision and evaluating all management tools, as this is a top-notch, high-level management tool that deserves the scrutiny of everyone involved that helps you make management decisions. So our first rollout was these 2 awesome critters, the neonatal calf, the neonatal calf and the transition cow. Our industry, despite decades and decades of research and work, both on the nutritional and veterinarian areas, still have not got figured out how we deal with the compromised immune system in this newborn calf and in that transition cow, such that we avoid metabolic disorders. And in a previous webinar presentation, we looked at the economic impact of this transition cow on the overall profitability of the dairy. As most of you know, 50% of all the culls occur in the first 100 days. So if we can effectively deal with mama here avoiding metabolic disorders, we're going to make a whole lot more money. So bear with me here a little bit. I'm gonna ask David if he would bring up the webinar. The webinar was our rollout of our M4A product back at the Professional Dairy Producers of Wisconsin event last March. David, it's all yours.
All right, John, let's get that video rolling. Here we go.
We have a farm motto, people, animals, environment. The animals are really important. We do the best we can to make sure that our consumers see that, and our animals definitely know that.
There's nothing more gratifying than to see a good-looking animal with a great hair coat that's frisky and running around and so forth.
The cows are really important. We care about our cows, and they have an awesome environment to live in. I think they know we care about them.
What we're doing is trying to make sure that we have a healthy animal. Pressure from the consumers that we want to reduce our antibiotic use. So we're trying to reduce that amount that we have to give to a cow.
The M4A product is derived from the mangosteen, the most intense and concentrated fruit in the world.
I heard about mangosteen actually a few years ago a little bit. I was really excited about it. Something that we thought that could fit really well into our dairy.
The mangosteen product is something that we're very interested in because it fits into our protocols. We don't want to use antibiotics any more than we have to. So it's a natural product. It's something that will contribute to healthy animals, which is also what we want here on the farm.
The opportunity that exists with the M4A product is pretty staggering when you think about the fact that you can enhance the immune system and get the animal to effectively fight off disease and have no antibiotic residue.
Less you have antibiotics, I think the better quality animal you're going to have. It's better to have the calf let their immune system work on their own instead of having to force an antibiotic into a calf. And allowing that mangosteen to work, I think, is a huge advantage.
The monetary benefits of it, I think they're going to see that, one of the consumer confidence that we're showing that we're reducing the antibiotic use that we have here on the dairy.
We need to be responsible about helping consumers understand what we're doing on the farm, where their food comes from.
Really not what can we use this product on, but rather what can't we use it on. I'm very impressed with some of the things that the dairymen have come up with in terms of how they're utilizing this product.
We really are critical about the first 2 weeks of the calves. We probably would implement the M4A in there, the mangosteen, because that's a critical time where their immune system isn't where it should be.
Anytime that we're able to get a cow to stay out of our hospital pen is a lot more efficient than having her in a hospital pen, because that takes up a lot of our time.
And that's really what we want to do, is try to minimize any events that are going to cause any stress or any problems, any issues with that cow as she transitions into another productive lactation.
As we move forward into this next decade, these two pieces of dealing with inflammation and enhancing immune systems are going to become the foundation of raising animals.
Well, thank you, David. For those of you that want to go back and view that video again, you can find that on our website, www.m4ahealth.com. And I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to grab that link and share it with your veterinarian if he's not on the webinar with you, or with your nutritionist, or your brother who just doesn't believe in natural products. I think they might be surprised in terms of what the potential is to incorporate a new management tool into your herd management system. So let's look at a little bit. Part of the reason we have so much confidence in this product. I'll share with you a number of trials here that we've done. The very first trial involved calves, which was our initial focus. We were only going to do calves. That was the only thing that we were going to address. This trial involved a even split of 62 head, as you can see here, and it was a prevention-oriented program. We gave 1 ounce per day from days 4 to 13. At the time we started this trial, we thought maybe we might impact the colostrum antibodies if we started too soon. I'll show you later where we did another trial where it's quite obvious it had no negative impact in starting sooner. So you can read through this, and you'll find this in that brochure as well as on our website. So I'm not going to go in great detail in this, just to point out some things that you can see here highlighted in red. We shortened the duration of the scours as a result of having a prevention product in there. Keep in mind, our focus was on enhancing the immune system, and if the immune system is effective, the impact of a of a metabolic disorder, scours or pneumonia, is not going to last long. I think most of you can relate to that. If you have a weak immune system because you've been working 15, 18 hours a day, it's going to be harder to ward off the intrusion of a virus or a cold or whatever. Such is the case here too. That if we don't cripple the immune system by using antibiotics, but rather enhance it with a supplement, look what happens here. Pretty significant. Repeat scours, once we build that immune system, in this particular trial, we had no repeat scours after the initial onset of scours. We don't prevent, I don't claim to that this product will prevent all scours and pneumonia, but what I do really feel confident about is that you're just not going to have the repeat scours to the degree that you had. And the amazing thing, as most of you know that are on this webinar, we have a very, very serious problem with pneumonia when we wean calves. In fact, one of the university people at the National Dairy Calf and Heifer Association last April said that he thought that we were above 30% intervention with antibiotics at the point of weaning in all of the calves in the state of Wisconsin, irregardless of housing, whether it be the old remodeled dairy barn, the calf huts, or even the power ventilated facilities that this university person was helping dairymen with. Tremendous impact. It really opened our eyes to the potential of this product. But this was kind of a duplication of what I had learned a number of years before from an organic dairy farmer that had been using this product. He had said, John, I just don't treat scours more than 2 days. I'd say, oh, come on, Joe, that's just not possible. Well, we found out in a very controlled research trial that what Joe had told me many years ago was really very, very true. So second, fresh cow trial, and this was our transition from only doing calves into fresh cows. Good friend of mine, when I approached him in terms of doing a trial with his calves, he said, John, what about doing something with my fresh cows? He said, there's something wrong in our heifer raising program at the Custom Heifer Raiser, and our heifers just are not starting well. They're coming in, they're having high somatic cell count, they're just not peaking very well. We're getting way too many animals that are going off feed, just all sorts of issues going on. Metritis is over 60%. Obviously, those statements would alarm you as a veterinarian or you as a nutritionist if you're listening. But you've probably seen a duplication of this where when something goes wrong, it seems to really, the pendulum swings way too far. So we went in and we supplemented animals. We simply took the odd numbers, became the controls, and the even numbered became the M4A supplemented. And I don't have on the slide, but just so that you're aware, we only supplemented 3 ounces per day for 5 days. We did vary the trial a little bit. There were some that only received it for 3 days, but there were some that received it on the tail end of the trial for 10 days. But when we went back and looked at the average, it was 5.1 days average that the animals were supplemented. So we simply in the fresh pen, we set the headlocks and then we supplemented them there. The reason we increased it is this was done during that ugly winter. You know, it was 20 below zero a couple of days in the dairy barn, and the animals were eating a lot of frozen feed. They were stepping on frozen manure clods, and I thought, oh my word, what a time to do a trial. There's no way that we're going to have an impact with these kind of conditions. So we extended the duration on the last few animals, but like I say, the average was 5.1 days, and 5 days is our standard recommendation in the industry. So very quickly here, again, the points that are highlighted in red, 325,000 less first test somatic cell count. Many of you would say, oh my word, that's just an outlandish high somatic cell count. But I would guess all of you have seen that when things go awry, when the stresses are too high, when metritis is bad, when they don't clean and so forth, we often get that sort of thing. So the average was 426 on the first test somatic cell count. The animals that were supplemented, it was just 101,000. And we probably should have seen that coming because we did complete blood work, and the leukocyte counts and changes in white blood cell count and red blood cell count should have told us that this was coming. We actually didn't see these results until the trial was completed in terms of that. So we went back a couple months later and said, let's look at, did we have an impact? Did we really kill any bugs? And it's quite interesting that it's quite obvious that that trend continued, that we obviously killed some bugs and got this down to a very admirable somatic cell count level. This is evidence that this is a well-managed farm. The changes that they made, the feeding regimen, the care of the fresh cows by the herdsman and herd manager resulted in a very respectable somatic cell count by the end of third. So they did a good job here. Evidence of good management and good intervention. But as many of you know, it's this thing here that the industry now says causes us huge economic losses in that first lactation when we start out with that high first test somatic cell count. Maybe more, and I apologize for being a little bit windy here, but I just wanted you to see the reality of this and the practicality of how this trial was dealt with. So we looked at first test versus third test milk, about 5 pounds more milk in the supplemented animals than the other animals. We may go back and look at peak milk now that most of these animals are completing their lactation. The reason we didn't use peak milk is we wanted to summarize this early on, and as you know, some heifers don't peak until the 4th, 5th, even 6th month, and so we thought this was most appropriate. We think part of that milk increase come from the fact that we had fewer days off feed and we had fewer lame cows. Remember, these animals were walking on clods and so forth, frozen clods, slipping and falling, and we think that these two things had a significant impact on that. But what really surprised us was the impact on reduced days to conception. I think most of you know that the rule of thumb is $3 to $5 per day for each day that reduced the days to conception. So we got almost $100 return for a supplementation of 3 doses per day for 5 days, or about a $15 innovation. We got about $100 return just in conception, not to mention the increase in premiums by getting this taken care of and the increase in the sales of milk. So we're 500, 600, 700% return for investment in this trial. So the third trial was to go back and look at, in a larger number of calves, what we did months earlier. And we set this trial up, and it was to begin in about a month. About 5 days before we started the trial, they had a major rotacorona outbreak. And now you got to keep in mind, this is a 10,000 head calf ranch, and as many of you know, when you got that many animals crowded in a small space, it gets pretty nasty. And I was second guessing myself, thinking, oh my word, do I want to tangle with this in the middle of this outbreak? I thought they were going to use 20 to 30% of the calves in the control row. But to their credit, the amount of electrolytes that they used, the amount of antibiotics that they used, the amount of IVing that they did on the calves, they only ended up with 7 calves lost out of a row of 88 calves. The reason we're 7% lower, we'd lost no calves despite that intense, vicious combination of E. coli and rotacorona. But where the supplementation, and incidentally, the supplementation occurred from day 2 through day 11 on a preventative basis, we had twice as many calves that got no treatment whatsoever. So obviously we were impacting the immune system and reducing those scours and pneumonia incidents. And then, as we had seen in the first trial, the incidence of reoccurrence, so that second case of pneumonia, second case of scours, was 73% lower in the supplemented animals. And there's so much research now that's indicating that this is huge. If you shorten the duration to under a week, or you keep from them having that second or third occurrence, it could mean as much as 2,000-3,000 pounds more milk in that first lactation. So in this particular case here, although the returns are not immediate, the immediate return is the lower cost involved. So we reduce the cost for intervention, and our M4A cost included the prevention. So there's some return here, but the big return is up here when the animal calves because of that lower reoccurrence rate. And we went ahead and weighed 176 calves, less the ones that had died in the rows. There were 2 rows of 88 calves, and I am very grateful for a couple of nephews that helped me do this. You can imagine taking 170 plus calves out of calf huts, putting them on a scale, then putting them back is a major undertaking. We got all done. We found that the supplemented animals were gaining at a 1/4 pound more gain per day in that first 21 days than the controls. What I didn't know when we started into this is this has never ever been done. I cannot find, nor can I get anyone to indicate that this was ever done. We always weigh calves at weaning, and we know what the results are. But very interesting things beyond the data that we were seeking here that result, and if some of you would like to explore this trial more, I'd be happy to share some interesting data in terms of some other things that we learned beyond this. And the fourth trial here was a 2,000 cow herd, bedded. They were bedded with the digester solids, and as you know, that's a bigger challenge than it is on putting cows on sand. So they had approached us. We didn't seek them. They said, hey, we'd like to look at the benefits of this product in a difficult situation. And we did this during the cool months, so their mastitis was not as high as what it was in the summer months and the humid months, but we basically did every other cow. So the first cow come in, got their normal antibiotic therapy, and then the next cow come in, got the M4A supplementation, and we did that on about 90 animals. There was a mutual agreement to throw out 4 or 5 animals that were just unique and just brought no value to the trial. So we ended up with, I think, 84 animals that were summarized here. 11% lower reoccurrence rate. So again, it appears as though, even though we're supplementing for only 5 days, we're enhancing the immune system such that the cows, the insults coming to the cow from bacteria from the environment, especially the bedding, are warded off by producing a greater immune system in the animals. When the dust all settled, 48% less antibiotics, and I use that term generically because our product is not antibiotic, but we're comparing antibiotics here to our product, including the prevention here, and we had 48% less product. We sampled the cows post-treatment, and this not real scientific. In an ideal world, we'd love to do it at the exact same day post-treatment, but they were not currently on DHI tests because of the economic challenges right now. So we simply, at one point, once the trial was completed, we went back in and sampled all the cows. When we compared the cows that were treated with mastitis versus those treated with M4A, the M4A animals, on the average, had a lower somatic cell count than those treated with antibiotics. And because we had daily milk weights, it was interesting to look at how much faster the animals, especially those that came in with a lot of inflammation in their udder or had the more toxic type mastitis, how much faster we got those back to previous milk. At some point, we may go in and attempt to repeat this and look at the economic impact that has in terms of the pounds of milk that we gained in that recovery period. So all said and done, the animals that were treated with M4A, if we look at their milk production on the day of the onset and looked at dumping that milk for the period of time that was used for milk withholding with the antibiotics, we had $3,309 of milk that went into the tank that would have otherwise been dumped had they been on antibiotics. So if you combine this savings here plus this dump milk here, you can see $4,000 advantage. We did some calculating based upon their incidence of mastitis, and it appears as though on this particular farm there could be a $50,000 savings annually by using M4A compared to their antibiotic therapy, a combination of reduced product cost as well as reduced milk losses. So what's the return on investment look like? I'm sure many of you as nutritionists, you strive to get 150% return on the investment for the nutritional additives that you put in, and we've never really looked at return on investment for intervention with antibiotics, but we have done that. And we're consistently seeing 300, 400, 500%, and even higher than that return for the dollar invested. And right now, those dollars are huge in this sluggish dairy economy. Take a look at how we calculate that return on investment. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's better to do an analytical evaluation of that. We have a spreadsheet. I spent considerable time putting this together. All of our M4A users are given this tool to use if they choose, or if their nutritionist or veterinarian wants to use it. So we have some inputs on here, and if I take my arrow on up here, you can see labor costs. Always be sure and add in your benefits here. I think they were paying about $10 an hour flat rate, but by the time you add benefits and so forth in, they were at $14 a hundredweight. We plugged in here 16 cents a pound, or $16 a hundredweight, which is what they were getting at that particular time. And then the cows per man. So if you're milking 100 cows an hour and you got one person, well, you're milking 100 cows an hour. If you got two people in the milking parlor, so you got 100 cows divided by 2, you got 50 cows per man hour. And then, as many of you know, we just don't get those cows through a hospital quite as fast. All the attention in terms of IDing the animal and making sure that we got bands on them, making sure that we're following up correctly, evaluating their udders, CMTing them and so forth, takes a tremendous amount of time. And so calculate this the same way. I think you'll be surprised that maybe 25%, as is indicated in here, is a really good efficiency rate. We've got other options here to add in additional costs here. We've got some M4A costs over here, the number of days, and there's other efficiency things that can be dealt with here on both sides of the equation. But the bottom line is we want to calculate return on investment, and that's what this sheet does so well. You can see here that the M4A cost was $14.25, and just for those of you that are wondering how on earth this all occurred and why they didn't have to go in the hospital, well, we simply identified that cow as a mastitis cow, put a yellow mark across her forehead, put her into the pen right in front of the hospital, locked up those cows once a day, and went down and drenched them with the product once a day for 5 days. And people said, well, that's pretty time consuming. Well, we were talking about that and we wanted some numbers. So with an assistant, I drenched 20 cows that were in that M4A supplemented group in 5 minutes and 20 seconds. But obviously I was trying to prove a point, and I had a good assistant that was preparing the drench bottles and giving them to me as I moved down the line. So anyway, a great return, and I encourage you to explore this, whether you're using our product or not, in terms of what is your cost for a hospital cow. So the product works extremely well, and I hope those of you that are involved in some other species, whether it be equine or involved in poultry here, we're soon to do some trials in turkeys here, or whether it be goats or it be pigs, that you will find some valuable information from this trial. Lots and lots of experiences. We're just now getting getting our website populated with testimonials. I think we've got over 100 testimonies on companion animals here that are going on to our website. And there's a story of a young man that we helped get his injured pig to a 4-H event, and stories of my wife addressing some kid goats that were born and looked like they were frozen, a set of twins and so forth. Lots and lots of testimonies there. So our brand and our approach. We've been very, very focused on who we are and how we're approaching the industry. Number one, as hopefully you captured in the video, we're very compassionate about animal health and well-being of animals. And we spent considerable time making sure that message comes through in our video, and hopefully you captured that. If you got any suggestions for us on how we communicate that more effectively, we'd be very grateful of that. We think we're very, very very visionary. We want to not only impact animals, but ultimately impact humans as well in a wide range of ways. This product sold $2 billion in the human market when it was introduced in the first 5 years after it was introduced in 2002. I didn't even become acquainted with the product until late 2007, and I have to tell you that as far as a human health standpoint, I haven't taken an aspirin or an ibuprofen in almost 11 years. I've only used the mangosteen product. So as the president of the company, a very strong testament to the value of this product in the human side as well as the animal side. Our approach in terms of attempting to be identify ourselves as a problem solver on farms rather than a pill pusher or a pill peddler, is that we want to assess and address best management practices on the farms. We have some forms that are self-evaluation forms. We ask the herd owner or calf manager or herd manager to address best management practices. For the calves, for instance, we have 38 best management practices. We ask them to score themselves 1 to 10. For instance, consistent dry bedding under your calves. Score yourself. We often get 5s and 6s, and it's hard to argue with someone. They're saying the economic impact of trying to keep that bedding as dry as you'd like to see it is just not there in these down times. I have to buy straw, etc. I'm not going to argue that, but we need to acknowledge the fact that that could be contributing to some of the scours and pneumonia problems in calves. So we address that. Then the second form addresses the 6 weakest links in the area of best management practices. We define exactly what we're going to do, who's going to address it, and in what due date. And in the ideal world, we do not want to use any M4A before this is done. Well, obviously, if you're having some serious problems, very seldom do the producers wait till this is totally done, but we engage in this process in almost all cases as we engage with producers. There's no question but what we are, paradigm changer. That's one of our biggest challenges, is actually getting people to understand that they don't have to use a needle in the syringe to deal with metabolic disorders. And that's a big challenge. We've all been, I guess I'll be as bold to say, brainwashed to believe that that's the only solution, not only in animals, but in humans as well. And then I think most of you are aware that with antibiotics, we're chasing the disease. The disease is already there, and you have to wonder, how long did that disease exist before you intervened? And wouldn't it be better if we intervened in advance of the disease rather than when the disease happened? Well, the reason we don't do that is oftentimes we have to withhold milk, and it's very, very expensive. In our particular case, our approach is to intervene in advance of disease and metabolic disorders. Do we have to feed this product to all the animals? No, we don't need to do that. We know that during certain seasons of the year, following cold, windy weather, we're going to have a high incidence of pneumonias in calves. So why don't we intervene on a preventive basis at that particular time? And you can tell the rest of the story here. I'm sure you can suggest ways that we can intervene in advance of the disease or metabolic disorder rather than after it onsets. And then, of course, we're very focused on high profitability. Lots of products coming in that lots of people are spending lots of return on, or lots of money on. And I challenge you to address what kind of return on investment are you getting on those. So our confidence in this product, the reason we're so enthusiastic, the reason we step very boldly into the industry and will step up and challenge, to give you an idea of the intensity of that challenge, we are willing to contract with a farm that will absorb any losses that exist on the farm if you commit to using 0 antibiotics in the first 60 days of the calf's life. Wow, people said. You ain't for real, are you? And I said, yes, I'm for real. We do not need to use the antibiotics. In fact, it's sinful to use the antibiotics on a newborn calf. We're compromising the immune system. Okay, enough said. But if you want to engage, I'd be happy to engage with you. We have actually another company that has an immune enhancement product. We may tag team and do some contracting with farms. So we're very, very confident in the research behind the product when it was used in humans long before I got started with it in the animals, and our trials are just outstanding. In addition to that, part of our confidence comes from the fact that we have a very strong group of advisors. We have some great legal identity and stamina. We have one of the best attorney firms in the country. Obviously, we know that the big pharmas of the world will come after us and attempt us to put us into court. We're prepared for that. We feel a combination of the patent work that we've done, the trademarking that we've done, and the advice that we're seeking from experts in the industry that we are going to be here for the long haul. We also gain a lot of confidence to listing to dairy producers. In the last 6 months, I've been on farms that represent 500,000 cows, no question about it, and it's interesting to ask them what sort of problems they have and how they're addressing those. And it's also very interesting to find that they're moving away from antibiotics very aggressively, and they're anxious to see this as a tool in their toolbox to address metabolic disorders. The other confidence we're getting is as we present and listen to veterinarians and veterinary clinics. This is an ongoing education process to bring veterinarians up to speed in terms of alternatives, and I'm yet to get much kickback on that in terms of negativity here. And then one of the other reasons we're very confident, we've got some regular passionate users of both our liquid product as well as our dry product here. And let's go on here. So the products, we first come onto the market with a nano mangosteen product, very interesting process in terms of producing that. I encourage you, those of you that have not heard of nanotechnology, to go out there and look. It's taking the world by storm. I got to give credit to the Vietnamese. They have a huge number of medical interventions that are produced with nanotechnology. We have a paper that explains nanotechnology. I think we have it on the website, but if we don't, we'll soon be putting it on there that would explain that if you want a better understanding. So we first come on the market with just 5 and 7 gallon containers. This price is based on $1 per ounce or per dose, and there's 640 ounces in 5 gallons, so $640 here. When we get above these size containers into the 15s, 30s, and 55, there is some discount on that until we get into dealing with some very large farms. I don't anticipate we'll be selling much of that. But then based upon consultants that I use, they strongly advise me to back into a smaller quantity for those smaller farms that need the help in terms of efficiency and cost control, and so we did bring this on. Now I will say that we have taken this product off our website. We currently still do have this product and it is available, but we don't think we're going to produce any more of this product for the long term. And the reason for that is that this product outperformed not only the original juice that sold $2 billion in the human world, but also outperformed our nano product. But I've got some producers that just don't want to part with their nano product. They love it. They think that the impact not only on metabolic disorders, but as well as digestion enhancement is huge. And but this is what we have. This is a companion animal size. It's got 63 grams in it. Sells for $39. Then we've got a 252 gram. This is an 80 dose container. And keep in mind, a calf on a prevention basis gets 1 dose. A cow would get 3 doses a day. So you can equate in terms of your cost. But basically, an intervention both for prevention and metabolic disorder on a cow is about $15. On a calf, depending upon the duration of the prevention, could run $3 to $10, but most of the time producers are spending $10 on that. If you buy in volume, obviously you get a reduction in cost, and this is significant reduction, $19 a container if you buy a box of 4. And then of course there's some shipping and handling costs. We've got that worked out such that that's fairly minimal in comparison to what lots of other people are charging here. So as I mentioned, we're not only present in the bovine world, and that is out here on M4A Dairy or M4A Health. Either one works in terms of Facebook. But we also have an M4A Pet Lovers and an M4A Equine. I think this is a typo. That's actually supposed to be M4A Equine. My apologies there. But so all of these have got a Shop Now button on them that go over to our website so that you can purchase here. So in summary, there's a very serious problem, and both the consumer and the government agencies are demanding that, and producers are attempting to respond. We've got a new category problem that a new category product that we think is an awesome solution to this big industry focused problem, and it's giving great return on investment, largely because of no meat and milk withholding or the reduction in chronic conditions that result in greater first lactation milk. Tremendous amount of research out there. Again, I encourage you to go out and explore the research on PubMed.com, and then exceptional performance out of our trials in both dairy and equine. I didn't really talk anything about the equine trial, but just as impressive as the dairy there. And then just recently we give you online access to this product via our website, and whether you're addressing neonatal calves, transition cows, equine, poultry, or companion animals here that runs the gamut from here to here, we think this product is a great tool for you with something we didn't even talk about, and that's a tremendous reduction in the risk and the side effects of using antibiotics. So we're here. It took me a little longer to get to the finish line, but thank you, David, for facilitating this. And do you have any questions out there in terms of this presentation? David, I think you've been monitoring that. Maybe you have some questions for me?
Yes, John, and thanks for delivering quite a bit of information. A number of questions are here to answer. I'll just go through them one by one. First one, the on-farm trial results look very impressive. Are you continuing to do trials?
Well, it's interesting you should ask that. Actually, later today, going over to a 1,300 cow dairy where we did a very extensive fresh cow trial, similar to the first trial that we did on fresh cows or transition cows. We actually engaged not only heifers but mature cows, and we did the dosage at the dosage we'd done in the first trial. We did it again at a 2/3 dosage and at 1/2 the dosage to look at. We know it's effective. There is no question it's effective, but we think that we can reduce the dose, and ultimately we'll probably be feeding the product, but not quite ready for that. So yes, there's other trials, that one and another one that's in the works that need to be summarized that we'll be bringing forward. But I think the biggest experimentation and validation of the product comes from the producers using those. There's nothing more gets me more excited than having a dairyman call me, "Holy shit, John. He said, I had this cow at 140 pounds, and this happens to be Matt. And Matt, if you're listening, I hope you don't mind me sharing your story. He says, I had this cow at 140 pounds. She had 1.7 million in somatic cell count, and now she's down into the 100 range. I had another one that was over 1 million. She's down to 27,000. So that's the experimentation that's going on now. Each of us has got to come to our understanding of the thing. So lots and lots of experimenting going on lots and lots of farms and multiple species.
All right, here's another one. Comment, it looks to me that this product is too good to be true. John, how would you respond to that person?
Well, you know, I gotta admit, when that organic dairy farmer was telling me about it and would go on and on and on, I'd say, Joe, that's snake oil. I said, there ain't nothing that can do all of those things. And then as I got involved in the network marketing company that sold the $2 billion worth of product, or they sold most of the $2 billion, another 50 competitors come on the market and sold a portion of that $2 billion, but a small portion of it. And the stories that came back from cancer, which incidentally they produced a cancer drug out of this, it just oftentimes where snake oil comes up. And but the reason I spent so much time on the research is that it is not snake oil. It's validated by years and years of research. In fact, the first research actually took place back at the turn of the century. There's evidence of that. So the research is there, and then we validated it further. So it's very real. It's not snake oil, people. I encourage you to examine that for yourselves.
All right, and someone asks, how are sales going?
Oh, you know, with any new product, it's exposure and getting beyond the paradigms, and both of those have been a challenge for us in terms of getting people convinced. But I have to say that when I started on this venture 7-8 years ago, we had built a reputation on the product based upon some national calls. Myself and a young lady from Florida were doing weekly calls for both. Her focus was on companion animals, mine was on bovine, but such that in a Holiday Inn in Appleton, we had 175 people. We're building that same kind of momentum and reestablishing ourselves such that now, after a number of months of exposure since PDPW, it's starting to explode. The dry product especially just sold. And we, every day, I'm just surprised at how rapidly this is growing. So the sales are taking off extremely aggressive. And as one dairyman says, I have yet to find anybody that doesn't get excited about this product if I just put it in front of them and get them to use it.
All right, John, we have time for one more question now. Here it is. It looks as though the only thing limiting sales is getting the word out. Is there an opportunity for me or an independent salesperson to help with that and get compensated?
You know, that's a very timely question as we just got started with introducing a program for distributors, and it's really quite simple. I can't take credit for it. Actually, an advisor to me and his daughter that regularly consult with us had recommended it some time ago, and we just got to start. And here's the deal. Anyone that wants to be a distributor, we simply give you a code, and anyone you refer to us and they go on the website to purchase, they get a 5% discount immediately. That gives us a means to track who was the referring person because they're using that specific code, and you get 15% commission paid to you on the 20th of the following month. So we did that. We started in a couple of pilot projects. Oh my word, we got a third generation young dairyman that's 23 years old, and he is just on fire in terms of exposure of this product to other people. And then 110 cow dairyman down in southeastern Wisconsin here in the same way, and we've got many others coming on, and we think this program and the word of mouth, the sharing from the heart and soul of a good dairyman is going to spread the word on that. But then we've also planning to get to some major trade shows. DBA will be there. We'll be back at Professional Dairy Producers of Wisconsin in March, and then a little bit later in the month we'll be at the Wisconsin Farm Power Show, and then on into the National Dairy Capital Calf and Heifer Association. So we know we've got a big challenge in front of us, but we encourage those of you that see something on one of our Facebook pages to share it with others. And we're realizing that in this world of a new generation of people, social media is the option. So we're going to use social media intensely, and we're going to have to count on each of you that are on here to share your testimonies once you use the product and share us on social media. So thank you, David. I'm very grateful. I think you said that was the last question. So let me just, before you close this out, thank those of you that invested some time in your future, invested yourself into the opportunity to satisfy and address the issue that consumers and governmental agencies see in terms of using an alternative to antibiotics. So thank you for investing some time in yourself and in your future.
All right, John, let's do a wrap here. Thank you for delivering all the content today. And if anyone has additional questions, feel free to contact John at either the phone number or the email address shown on the screen. And otherwise, thanks everyone for attending today. And we hope you have a wonderful day and that you can join us on future events with M4A. Goodbye, everyone.